So, everybody, welcome to this open panel session for the Women in Mining South Africa Mentoring Programme. We hold one of these sessions every month, and we really focus on a reflection on the theme that we've covered in the mentoring program for that month. And this month, we've been talking about self-care. And we've really talked about it from the perspective of creating self-care as a sustainable habit, because our careers and our lives are a marathon, and when we expend all of our energy outside of ourselves very quickly, we often deplete ourselves. So a lot of this is about focusing on what we can do to keep ourselves sustained, energized, focused, and able to nurture our well-being for the long term. And so today we're going to explore how cultivating acts of joy, how setting healthy boundaries, how managing expectations, and focusing on what's within our control can all play a crucial role in nurturing our well-being for the long term. There's a quote that I really like from Audre Lorde, and it goes, "Caring for myself is not self-indulgence, it's self-preservation, and that's an act of political warfare." And that might sound quite aggressive, but I think the quote is valuable in that it encapsulates the essence that self-care is not a selfish endeavor. It's rather an act of preserving and protecting ourselves, and a necessary foundation for our ability to show up, to keep bringing our energy into this life, and to waging our warfare on a chaotic world, and maybe preserving ourselves in a chaotic world. So before we delve into this panel discussion, I want to invite you to reflect on 3 questions. And I've put those questions into the chat. And those questions are: what brings you genuine joy and fulfillment? And how often do you make time for genuine joy and fulfillment in your life? Second question is, how well do you set and maintain personal boundaries, ensuring that your well-being is a priority while still supporting the needs of those around you, and managing and balancing your own expectations along with those imposed on you by society? I think boundaries is one of the key foundations to self-care. If we are able to say, this is where my boundary is, we're able to manage expectations of ourselves and of others. But often putting boundaries in place is really challenging. And then the third question is, how clear are you on the things that you have in your control? And how often do you lose sight of these things while worrying about things that you actually have no control over? So if you can think about those, because we'd love to have a discussion and keep this as conversational as possible over the course of the hour and a bit that we've got together. So while you're considering these questions, our panelists are going to share their insights and expertise, and they're going to shed some light on the importance of self-care as a sustainable habit and how it helps them to empower their way and navigate through life's challenges. And I just want to thank everybody for joining us. And I'm going to start off by introducing our panel and my co-host. Humbalani Harvey is my co-host. She sits on the mentoring panel alongside me and several other mentoring committee members. And then our panelists today are current mentees in the Women in Mining South Africa Mentoring Programme for this year. And they are Emily Masanabo, Happiness Msweli, and Janine Osborne. And
hi, everyone.
There we go. Excellent. All right. So you've put your videos on. Thank you so much. Happiness, we want to see you as well if we can. I know you're in load shedding. So if we can't until load shedding is over, completely understand.
I would love for you guys to see me. Let me arrange myself quickly. Yeah. I'm on with my phone now. It's telling me stuff about settings. So let me quickly fix that. I'll switch on quickly now.
Okay, perfect. That's great. So what I'm going to do is start off by asking each of our panelists to introduce themselves and maybe just say an introductory word or two around what you've taken from our theme this month on self-care. And let's start with Janine.
Good evening, ladies. So I'm Janine. I'm a process engineer. I work for WiMSA Minerals, and I'm based in Cape Town at the moment. The self-care topic, it's actually funny. The reason why I'm laughing at it is because, number one, I am not good at self-care, neither in the workplace or at home. And when Briony presented this topic, I was actually on leave and working. And everything she discussed was everything that I was doing in that moment. And then I realized that as someone who's actually being diagnosed with burnout, I needed to put the brakes on what I needed to do. So it's a very important topic. Thank you.
I'm glad it came at the time that you needed it. And let's hear from Emily.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Emily Masanabo. I'm an engineering planner at Northern Platinum Boys and Shaft. Yes, self-care, sure. When we started the topic of self-care, I actually overlooked it. I thought self-care, it's manicures, pedis, going on a holiday. But when I sat and thought deep and experienced some of the pressure at work, and I realized self-care, it's more than just doing your nails and going on holiday or going for a massage, but it also comes with setting boundaries, protecting your space, taking breaks when it needed. And like Jenny said, stop working at home, have time for family. So for me, that defines self-care. And yeah, I'm looking forward to this session. Hope we're going to have fun together. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Emily. And finally, happiness. And we can now see you, which is wonderful.
Hey. Evening, everyone. So my name is Happiness Msweli. I'm a section rock mechanic at Anglo American Platinum, Dumela Mine, Namandawold. And when it comes to self-care, I'm going to go directly straight there. I was same thing as Emily, hey? When people spoke about self-care, I thought they said, oh, you need to just rest, do your nails, a bubble bath, which is very important as well. We realize so many ladies don't do that either. But what was highlighted, especially for me, was holding myself accountable. For me, that was the self-care I needed for myself. Because sometimes yes, we set boundaries. Yes, we say no. Yes, we do manicures and pedicures, but we don't hold ourselves accountable to the things that we promise ourselves. So for me, my personal self-care was that I promised myself certain things, and for me to have satisfaction in my life and how I want to live it, I had to make sure that I satisfy or I fulfill the promises I keep, or I keep them, or promises I make to myself. Yeah, basically that was it for me.
And make promises that you can keep. It's, I think, one of the big things for all of us is to make these massive promises to ourselves and then disappoint ourselves because we actually overpromise to ourselves and set ourselves such tight deadlines that we were never going to be able to achieve these things anyway. So being realistic with ourselves.
Definitely.
Humbalani, do you want to add anything before we move on?
Thank you, Briony. Evening, everyone. I think having listened to everyone that spoke on self-care, they summarized it quite well. Self-care is not luxury. It's a priority, actually. It becomes a lifeline. It is that practice of nurturing our physical, our emotional, and our mental well-being, and ensuring that we not only endure challenges, but we emerge even stronger than before from all these challenges through this self-care. So we need to emerge and be stronger and learn to take care of ourselves first before anything else.
Yeah, it so often sounds selfish, but it's the same principle as putting your oxygen mask on first in an aeroplane and then helping others. If we don't look after ourselves, there is nothing left for us to give to others. So let's start with the topic of joy. When we started talking about self-care at the beginning of this month, one of the concepts that I introduced was that joy is part of self-care. Joy and finding meaning in doing things that nurture us and make us feel good about ourselves, that bring us a sense of awe, that kind of enrich our lives, is really part of self-care. And yet so often it's the thing that we put on the back burner when life gets challenging, when things get chaotic. And so I want to ask you, Janine, because this is something that you talked about quite a bit. What brings you genuine joy and fulfillment in your life, and how do you make time for these activities, and how does that nurture you in a way that is self-caring?
To be perfectly honest with you, Briony, as a mom of 3, I have a list of things that need to be done, and Janine is right at the bottom. So it's something I needed to fight. It didn't even cross my mind that self-care was important for me. I found myself in a position in 2018 where I needed to go out to sea. I had a consultancy and I wanted to come back into formal employment, and no one wanted to employ me because I'm apparently too experienced. So I found myself presented with a fantastic opportunity at sea, which meant I was 2 months away from home. I took the position, and I'm a water baby, so I absolutely love being at sea. And the panic started to set in. What have you done? You are so selfish. Here you are out at sea, food being fed to you, living the hotel life on a floating ship. So much time for yourself. It's selfish. And I started to panic. And then there's this verse in the Bible which says, don't worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow has enough troubles of its own. And that for me was just a watershed realization. What if tomorrow is worse than today? And I missed out on the joy of today. So in that moment, I decided, oh, wow, I do love being out at sea. What is wrong with me, happy, for loving the situation that I'm in? So since then, that's what I do. Every day when I feel the panic come on, I say, no, I'm going to be grateful for the things that are going right in my life, and I'm going to live in the joy of today. So yeah, that's what I do. I find that having positive thoughts, you know, you have a choice. You can have a negative thought, which I think is how we've been conditioned, or you can have a positive thought. And you'll find that with each positive thought, it leads to the next positive thought. And then before you know where you are, you're in a complete place of joy. So, and then also, so I love being creative. Being an engineer, it's a very analytical job. No room for creativity. So I find that doing little things that are creative brings me joy. So as an example, which irritates my kids, when I'm sitting in a car, in between Ubering them, in between their activities, I'm on TikTok making videos. That's creative. That's creative. That brings me that little joy. And the last one, you know that joke? Have you heard the joke about how to eat an elephant? My
One bite
son,
at a time.
right, but my son said tiny by tiny. So now, whenever I feel joyless, whenever I feel overwhelmed, I say, tiny by tiny, tiny by tiny. Do one little thing that's going to make you happy. And before you know it, your complete mood, I won't say mood, your complete being has shifted.
Yeah.
From a place of darkness to a place of you can actually start to see things in a different way. And it's a deliberate, conscious decision that you need to take, and you need to practice until you get better at it. I don't think it's something that comes easy to us. I think as humans, we are naturally negative, naturally put ourselves down, especially as women. So it's something we actually need to defend. That's what I said my goal is for 2023. I'm going to defend my joy.
Oh,
Thank
how
you.
wonderful. Janine, thank you for that. And I love the fact that you introduced the concept of tiny by tiny, because when you talk about kind of 2 months at sea and that brings you joy, well, not all of us can kind of go hang out at sea for 2 months and immerse ourselves in that level of joy. But we can all find 10 minutes here, half an hour there, an hour there when we need to. And I certainly know from my own personal experience, having started spending just 20 minutes a day sketching and painting, how much joy that brings to me. And I think I shared in our group a week or two ago that there was a period of time where I stopped painting for a while. And it was in that period where I suddenly realized that painting is my medicine. I might not be great at it, but I love it. It forces me to, in fact, it doesn't force me. It gives me a space where I can breathe deeply. I can be a learner at what I'm doing. And it's something just creative. And while I'm painting, I forget that the rest of the world exists. And it truly is something that nurtures me. And so I just want to get a sense from some of the other panelists. What are some of the tiny things that you're introducing into your lives that bring you joy? And they could be anything, but I think what we really need from this panel is some ideas that open up our minds to different things that we could think about. So Janine, if there's anything else you want to add, otherwise Emily, Happiness, or Humbalani.
I just simply want to add that it doesn't need to be going out to sea. What I was trying to say is that you can find small things to do in your everyday life.
Yes.
But you need to shift your mentality to be grateful for those little things, because you can go out to sea and then you're not grateful for your situation, and what does it matter? So it's about creating the joy for yourself and realizing that no one's going to give it to you. You need to create it.
Beautiful point. Thank you for that. Emily, Happiness, Humbalani, anything you want to add there?
I'll come in there. On my side, Briony, it's actually something very small that I have overlooked, and I thought it was just part of life. But after we started with the session, I usually sit a lot. And when there's a lot of work, that's me sitting all the time, trying to finish whatever I have. And like I said previously, that it never gets finished. But never realized that standing up and grabbing a glass of water, interacting with the lady that cleans in the office, interacting with somebody that came to deliver papers, can actually refresh one's mind, and it gets you to know what's happening around you. You'll be working with people and not realizing that lady that makes you coffee, she's going through the most, and you're being hard on her. But that enabled me to do that, because all the time I'd be in my office to a point where I would close the door because the work is so much and I want to get the work done. And I forget what's happening around me, and I need that to refresh. During the week, I came across a saying. I just didn't check who the saying is from. People can help on the floor here. It says that the world needs the best of us, not what's left of us. Because often when we put so much focus in the work that we do, we forget what's happening, and you come home, you're drained. The only thing you want to do is to take a shower, you want to sleep. You don't even have time for the little ones. Hence, here at home, we've introduced one thing. I don't work when I'm at home. I don't open my laptop at all to do any type of work. If we're opening a laptop, we're looking for movies. So we would have movie night where we just watch, each and everyone will bring their own movie. Then we have that movie, and it's so refreshing. Monday, you also have a story to talk about. When you go back to work, you're like, oh yeah, I was with family. We sat in, we watched movies the whole week, and we buy popcorns, and the kids love it now. We will go and buy popcorns, and they'll be like, Mommy, can we have a movie night tonight? And it's those little things. And as you're sitting having movie nights, you hear the stories that they will tell you that you never even thought, oh, okay, I was missing out on this. But for me, really spending time with the people close to my heart brings me so much joy, because we can do anything from that, watching movies, driving, or playing outside, or braaiing, those little things. It's what recharges us as human beings. So it's the things that we tend to forget whenever the workload gets too much. So yeah, and personally, I'm not selfish to myself, but answering what Janine has said about taking time to the beach, I'm one person. If I want to go for a drive, I will go for a drive. If I want to go do my nails, I'll go do my nails. If I want to go for a massage, I will do that. But that is scheduled. So it's not like those little gestures that you do now and then, to get yourself back on track. Some people will go for a walk. I used to do that. I used to come home, drop my bag, put on my running clothes, and then get on the road. But lately, I don't do that. And I miss it because I know what fulfillment it brought to me. So it's something that I'm working towards. Like you say, tiny by tiny. I will start. I told myself I need to buy myself new shoes and a new outfit. Maybe that will encourage me to go on the road again. But yeah, it's all there. So yeah, on my side, it would be those little things, Briony.
Thank you, Emily. And it's, you know what, I think the point that you've made so clearly is the value and the joy that comes from connecting with people, whether it's loved ones in your family or people that we hardly ever talk to in the workplace. Getting to know them and their story can bring immense joy and meaning to our lives. And that enriches our lives. And this is a lot of what self-care is about, is actually enriching our lives so that we're energized to keep going. Happiness, you're off mute. Do you want to add something?
I do. Personally, the way I've tried to bring joy in my everyday life, I know for me, I live alone. So normally I don't get a lot of human interaction when I'm at home. So I try to get a lot of that when I'm outside. I had a conversation with one of my colleagues, and she's like, "Why do you always talk so much?" I'm like, "Because I'm with people." So for me personally, I work a lot like Emily, and when I'm working, I tend to zone in a lot. So I switch everyone off. And I've shown you guys my on and off card where I'm busy, don't disturb, and the tracker where I'm like, hey, who disturbed me today? Who derailed me? But then that takes away from the connection that I make with people, which means that takes away from the joy for the day. So what I've put aside for myself is, after I've got a list. So every day or weekly, I've got a list of the tasks I need to complete on the day. So every time I complete a certain task, I highlight it, and then it's joy time. So I'll go and talk to people. So that 5 minutes or 10 minutes, I'll go and talk to people and check in. How are you doing? And we'll start talking. And I've realized that has like the relationship I've had with people at the office now has become better from that. I've made connections, and they're now little jokes that I have with certain people because I've made the time to grow that connection. So yeah, I tick boxes. So for me, that is psychological and emotional in a sense, because I now have that human connection, and I look forward to it when I'm done with an activity. Now it's time to talk. And then physically, I've started going back to the gym again. So that is exciting. Every time, yes. So every time I come back from work, I'm drained. I'm so tired. And then I think, maybe I should drink the pre-workout. And then when I drink the pre-workout, I start itching. I need to go somewhere. And then I go to the gym. And afterwards, I'm so happy. I'm like, oh, I did it. So so that's the joy that I get. It might be post-workout, but it's still joy for me. So those little big acts, for me, it was big. Like going back to the gym is difficult. I've been saying I'm going to go back for the whole year. So this has been difficult, and I'm glad I did. And then lastly, another thing is, when you live alone, it's very difficult to cook every day. I don't, you're not going to do it, because why? So what I've now started doing is, maybe twice a week, I cook a meal that I really want, like that I would really love to cook for a loved one. And then I'll eat it. It's going to be sad, but I'll take it to work. And then during my people time, I'll go and share it. So after I complete a task, I'll go to someone, look what I cooked yesterday. Do you want to taste? So now I'm sharing my joy of food with my people time, and yeah, those little breaks in between. So that's what I normally do now.
Gosh, there's such brilliant strategies that you're sharing here. And for me, the interesting part here is, and it kind of introduces the topic of boundaries, which we're going to get into shortly, is that so often we think, if I put boundaries in place, it means I'm pushing people away. But actually, when we put boundaries in place, it gives us structure to do what we need to do so that we can then do what brings us joy. And in the process of putting those boundaries in place and saying, this is time for me to focus, it means that when you aren't focused on work, you are fully immersed in connecting with people. And I think that's such a wonderful thing to actually be able to experience, because often we try and layer all these things on top of each other, and we don't focus, we don't connect, we're not present, we start getting ratty. And here you are talking about how your relationships have actually improved in quality and brought you more joy because you've put boundaries in place. So, Emily, Humbelani, you're off mute. You want to jump in?
I just wanted to concur with Happiness Day. Remember, I communicated with her last week, Briony, and I could see she read my message. She pinned it. Then I could see that I've been scheduled for response. I had to go back to her and ask what the hell is going on here, because I was not even, I didn't even know that WhatsApp had those capabilities of filling and scheduling someone, and it updated me whenever she does that. Like, okay, now I see she read my message. I see she does plan on responding me, but when is she planning on doing that? So she is that structured person, something that we can learn. I think a whole lot of us, we're learning about putting the focus times in our calendars and knowing what to do certain tasks and not, and so on. So that's something that I've learned from her in the past, engaging with her in the past week, which is quite great. And when Emily was talking about the value and the joy that comes with connecting with people, one thing that I always do lately, since we started with the mentorship programs for this year, it's I always go back to the music therapy. Remember, I don't know how many of the ladies still remember that we've got that playlist that we created amongst each other. I always fall back to that playlist every time when I'm driving or when I feel down. I go to the playlist and it connects me to the females, to the ladies. It brings back the joy within me. And I mean, listening to that music, it lifts my spirit and it makes me feel alive again. So depending on my mood, I listen to that playlist or I listen to podcasts. Sometimes, I just dance like nobody is watching, put on my favorite music and let loose, just dance, and it can be liberating and joyful for self-esteem and self-expression. That's one thing that I always do when I feel down, and it brings back the life in me. Yeah.
Amazing. So I think all of us are still stuck on this idea that Happiness can pin messages and schedule when she's going to respond. We need to know how to do that. Please explain that to us. Do a screen video for us. Everybody is going, what? How? What? Never seen that. Okay. Yeah, and that sounds like such a great self-care strategy. I mean, imagine being able to just say, I'm going to get back to you later, instead of blue ticking people. That's caring for everybody.
It's actually, sorry, Briony, it's Briony to jump in, but it's actually similar to saying, I don't have the capacity to answer you right now, or I'm a bit busy to reply to your message right now, but I will definitely get back to you once I have the capacity, or once I'm not busy and I can give you the time that this message requires. So that's how I see it.
It's managing expectations and communicating. And that is just a gift for everybody. Thank you. Can't wait to see how that gets done. Emily, let's talk to you about setting boundaries. So without boundaries, we can't look after ourselves and we can't look after other people. So how do you set boundaries in your personal and your professional life? And can you give us some examples of the types of boundaries that you've set?
Sure, Briony. This one took me a while to actually come to terms that it's time for me to set boundaries. And I want to start with saying that, often when we start in an organization, we at the junior level, we want to do everything that is given to us so that people know that we want to learn, we're willing to work. But as you go up the ladder, things change, and unfortunately, some people are still stuck to you, the to-go person, to do 1, 2, and 3 for them. And when you start creating boundaries, you get rejected, you get people not taking it as it comes. You get labeled, being called mean, oh, now you're full of yourself. But in creating boundaries, I've realized there's a lot of benefit. I've said in the beginning there that I would often close my door because I have so much to do. But when you look at that so much to do, you might find that my priorities actually, it's just 30% of the work. And 70% is work that doesn't even involve me. It's other people's work that they need to do. And what I've done is I've learned how to say no without saying no, I've learned to share the knowledge, because people would come and say, oh, but you're the only one that can help us with this, And then you realize, okay, so if I'm the only one that can help with this, clearly I'm still going to have this backlog because of no one else can do this. What do? I train somebody to do it. I pass the skill, especially to my juniors, my clerks, because now they are looking forward to go on to that position. They want that promotion. So for them to get to a level where Emily is, they're gonna have to know what Emily does. So, and with them as well, I don't bring it as, okay, I'm moving my work to you or some of my work to you, but I'm bringing it in a way to say to them, I'm empowering you, to better you. I might not better you for this position, but I'm bettering you for elsewhere. So if my colleagues that feel, okay, only Emily can do this, now come to my office and they want my attention. So I told them, no, listen, I'm busy with 1, 2, 3. I understand what you want is important. However, I've taught Tsietsi is my assistant, I'm using his name. I taught Tsietsi how to do this, and I want him to be confident in being able to execute this. So it would really help me if you can ask him to assist you, so I can also measure his understanding on what I've taught him. And fortunately, what happened is in the month of October, I wasn't available because I was acting as the maintenance coordinator for the whole shaft. So I would only go to my office maybe twice in a week. And guess who they were left with? My assistant. So somehow they've gained confidence now in him. So now he can assist and I can focus on really what matters, really what I need to deliver on. So by doing what I did, I created a boundary. At the same time, I try to empower someone and also free some time. Okay? I can get, like Happiness has said, I can get back to calls, I can get back to text, and not forget and blue tick people. And later on, you hear people saying, yeah, I spoke to you, you never said anything, or remembering an appointment of the day of the appointment. So it gives you enough time to do that. And if I take it further, Briony, boundaries, I think they come also with positions. I love helping people. Believe you me, you go anywhere, they will tell you, Emily will drop whatever to come assist you. But then that leads to a burnout, because then I don't have time for myself. So people need to understand that with growth comes different responsibilities. And I always say that, first of all, you need to know your responsibilities. You need to know what your supervisors, your manager expect out of you. Because once you know that, it will be easier for you to draw the line, have your priorities. No, even if somebody comes and my assistant is not there, be able to say, okay, that is going to go on number 2 or number 3, depending on the priority. So it's also doing that. And also, I spoke to one of my managers this afternoon. I'm like, what do you think about boundaries in a workplace? And she said to me, Emily, boundaries, it's setting limitations, And then she said, you must look at positions like us, we managers. I cannot be entertaining corridor talks. So I need to create that boundary, as much as not everyone will like me, but for the position I'm in, I need to do that, to be also respected in that manner. So boundaries is also gaining respect and setting limits for your team members or people that report to you, to say, I can go up to this point. So as much as in the streets, you can speak to me and answer me the way you like, but when we are in a meeting, there's a manner that you have to speak to me in, and there's things that you're going to have to expect that will happen, because I will have to instill discipline. So those are type of boundaries that we create, and they allow us self-care. Because believe you me, the lesser you have people expecting things from you, the lesser you have dealing with corridor talks, and you can put that energy into something, and you can deliver on what is expected from you. So yeah, on boundaries, as that, I know there's quite a lot of my colleagues that feel like, oh, she's distant now, you think you better now. But I mean, down the road, they will understand certain things needed to be done, you know, because like I said, with growth comes change. And then that's when boundaries needs to be enforced. Thank you, Briony.
Emily, thank you so much. I think this is so powerful. And I think the big thing that comes out from what you're saying is that as we navigate transitions through our careers, what's expected of us changes. And if we hold on to what was expected of us in a previous position, we're not looking after ourselves, and we're not engendering respect for ourselves from others, because we're actually allowing people to expect inappropriate things from us. And so the moment we are clear on role clarity, we are self-caring. The moment we are coaching, mentoring, and training others to take on work so that they have the capacity and we can move on to what we should be doing, we're self-caring. The moment we're building capacity in our teams, we're self-caring and we're caring for others. The moment we focus on respect rather than being nice, we're self-caring. And I think the most important thing here is that we cannot people please and look after ourselves. But I don't think we often make this connection. We look at these things and we go, but this isn't self-care, but this is the foundation of self-care. And it really leads into controlling what we can control. Because when we don't control what we can control, we have no control over anything. And no control and uncertainty takes a huge amount of energy, and it saps our energy for anything else. We're going to move on to controlling what we can control just now, but I just want to see if there's any other comments from Janine, Humbalani, Happiness. Humbalani hit the button first, so Humbalani's up.
I think I just wanted to re-emphasize on what Emily has just said. It's very much important for us to know and to remember that setting boundaries is an act of self-respect, not selfishness. It's about valuing your own needs and ensuring that you are in the best position to give the best of yourself and to others as well. And I think, Briony, it's very important for us to know that the only people that get upset when you set boundaries are the ones that were benefiting from you not having any boundaries. So those that understand the boundaries will understand once you start having boundaries, and once you start setting them, they will understand and they will respect them. And it is very crucial as well to surround ourselves with people that respect our boundaries and that can offer that encouragement, when you have challenges, and they can understand why you have set those boundaries, and be consistent. Once you set those boundaries, don't compromise for anyone. Consistency goes a long way. You communicate, and they will understand. It will reflect as having that self-respect for yourself as well.
Yeah, it's the key point there is keep enforcing your boundaries. The moment you have a boundary and then you don't enforce it, you've lost all respect. Happiness.
Yeah. So I really like the point that Emily and Nomalani highlighted on setting boundaries in order to get yourself to where you want to be. Because especially in the mining industry, boundaries are not heard of. Like when it comes to the tasks that you're expected to carry out and the tasks that you were expected to carry out in your previous role. So just because you knew how to carry out a certain task, you're expected to do it even now, even if you have other roles that you need or things you need to focus on. So sometimes that might impede on your development and also the development of the people that you're trying to lift as you rise. So setting the boundaries, as Emily said, of saying, oh no, I don't do that anymore, but go to that person that does it. But another thing that is very important, especially in our industry, is setting boundaries between the work and life balance, because it's very easy for them to bleed the work into your life. They will tell you, no, it's 6 o'clock. How are you knocking off now? Or I sent you a message on Saturday at 5 o'clock. Why didn't you reply? So those certain things now are bleeding into your life, where you need to be spending time with your family or building yourself up or working on your 5 to 9 after your 9 to 5. So setting boundaries, saying I'm available during this time, and if it's important, you can pop me a message. If I do have time to return to you, if it's important, I will. But during this time, I'm focusing on my family life. I'm focusing on building myself. When I actually spoke to my colleagues this other day, and I asked them, what do you do for your 5 to 9? And they're like, I'm too tired because after my after my 9 to 5, or for us in the mining industry, it's like 3 to 4 or something like that. So after my 3 to 4, I'm just too tired. I don't have the energy for my 5 to 9. I'm like, yeah, that's because you haven't set boundaries. That's because you're letting your work life bleed into your personal life. So that's why it's important to know this is where I stop. And if it's outside this block, it's either developing me, it's developing someone I'm working with, or it's really urgent. So that's my thought.
Yeah, I think those are great points. And we all have a choice to make around how much bleed we want between work and other things. And at some times in our careers, we want lots of bleed because it's lots of opportunity to grow and learn and get involved and build our networks. And at other times in our career, we want less bleed because we have so many other things going on in our lives that we need to balance as well. And I think the key point here is not being prescriptive to everybody to say, you must have a hard boundary. It's you must figure out for yourself what works for you that enables you to sustain your energy for the marathon that is life. And once you've figured out for yourself, be okay with the fact that you make different choices at different times in your career and you live with those choices. And most importantly, how we show up in the world and what we allow, what we tolerate, what we encourage is how we teach other people to work and treat us. And so it's self-care is being accountable to ourselves on how we teach others to treat us. Valencia, I saw your hand go up. I was wondering if you had a question or a comment that you wanted to ask from the audience.
Hi, Briony. Hi, ladies. Yes,
Hi.
thanks for picking that up. I just wanted to share a small comment because I love this discussion about not just having a boundary, but managing the boundary. One of the things that I've done recently, and it really helps me a lot, is it's almost a small act of letting go. When I have leave or when I have to go to site or, I'm out of the office and there's work that needs to be done, I always have an out of office and I always discuss it with my colleague, and I thought it was standard practice, but I see a lot of people don't do that. So just thought I'd just share that because it helps a lot. One of my colleagues, he's so great. Like I always just brief him briefly on some of my projects. And we have this thing now where if he's on leave, I just take full charge and I don't call unless it's a huge emergency. And he does the same for me. And I think that it is difficult for a lot of us to actually let go when we're on a break or we're traveling. But just speaking to the point of managing our boundaries, I think that is something that really helps a lot. And just one extra thought that I kind of wanted to share was we're talking about boundaries in terms of things that limit us. And I just would love to hear what everybody thinks about this. But what about what we watch, what we listen to? Because sometimes when we're on social media, for example, we might feel a certain way, maybe something's upsetting us, but then we still feed into that and we're watching it and it can have a negative impact. So what are other methods we can apply to better manage our boundaries and what we're exposed to?
Great point. Absolutely. It's Janine, you want to respond, I can see.
Yes. So I've been there. I've been in that place where I realized that I felt like I was in a dark place every time I was on social media. It took me a while because I won't give away my age, but I'm of the generation that did not have Facebook. So when it came out, for 10 years, I posted everything about my life. So I was that person who did everything that Facebook could offer. And I reached the point where I realized that what if I'm the one who's making other people depressed? And then I decided, this is 2018, coincidentally, just before I went to sea, I decided that I was deleting all apps. I have not gone back, Valencia. I've not gone back. I found that I now have time for other things. I have time to find joy in other things now. So I think you definitely, absolutely, when you feel that you do not feel right, you have to investigate what you're looking at and what you're listening to, and then just cut it out of your life. Hard cut. Gone. Thank you.
Beautiful. Go for it. Happiness.
So I haven't been as strong as Janine. I haven't deleted all my apps yet. I don't know if I will. But what I've done on my phone is I've set screen time. So it times out. So certain apps, for me personally, I spend so much time on them. And I tell myself, oh, I'm developing myself. Most of my TikTok videos are about what's this, handcrafts, cooking, exercising. So I'm like, no, it's good stuff, but I end up spending over 3 hours there. So what I did is, I do. So what I did is I set up a time limit where I'm like, okay, 30 minutes a day, that's it. If I haven't seen what I wanted to see for that day, that is over. I'm not going back there. But another thing I've realized is I get affected a lot by things that are happening in our world. Like we know what is happening right now at Gaza, between Israel and Palestinians and stuff like that. So my feed now is full of that information, and you spend time on the deep dive, and it's so negative, and they talk about all the deaths and the children and the hospitals. And so what I've done is just, all of those things I've ignored. I because I know how it affects me. So what I try to do is stay away from it. So if I see anything like that, all the apps have that thing where you say, please don't show this to me again. Not because I don't resonate with the fear or the hurt or I don't feel sorry, or I don't, want to support any such sort of thing, but because of how it makes me feel and the lack of self-care I feel I bring to myself. So for that certain reason, and sometimes the news. When I drive to work, I don't like listening to the news because in the morning I'm grumpy and I'm in a bad mood already. I don't want anything that's going to make my mood even worse. So I try to listen to our playlist or other music instead of listening to the news. if I need to catch up on certain stuff or the news that's going, or anything that's going viral, or anything of importance, then I'll go and look for that specific story in the right channels. So yeah, that's what I've currently been doing.
Yeah, these are great ideas. Use technology to your advantage, not to your disadvantage. And I think one of the quotes that I shared in our group so frequently is a Paul Coelho quote. And he says, if I say no to this, what does it enable me to say yes to? And if I say yes to this, what does this stop me from saying, if I say yes to this, what does this stop me from being able to do? So what do I have to say no to? I completely screwed up that quote. I'll share it. But the point is that we have a finite amount of time. And so if we say yes to something, we got to say no to something else, and vice versa. So be very clear on what choices you're making. Briony, anything you want to add there?
I think, Briony, you're very right. As I was listening to Happiness speaking there, it goes a long way with practicing self-awareness. You know, we need to pay attention to our emotional and our physical reaction to certain situations, and set boundaries based on our own emotions. So we need to learn to listen to our intuition and trust our instincts. If a situation makes you feel uncomfortable, and you know that this situation makes you feel uncomfortable, or like she says, you get on TikTok, you spend 3 hours there, and you know about it, it's self-awareness, you set boundaries, that is a sign already that you may need to set specific boundaries when it comes to certain situations or certain tasks. So it talks to self-awareness. We need to learn a lot about ourselves and where we waste time and where we need to invest more times on. Yeah.
Yeah, lovely. Self-awareness is self-care. This part of the discussion has really resulted in a lot of comments in the chat, and I just want to highlight some of them. So Charity agrees, easy to waste precious time on social media. There are some people who don't understand why she's not getting into social media, but it works for her. Absolutely. Choose what works for you. You don't have to explain yourself to other people. Mahliadi, absolutely. I believe that struggling with boundaries is linked to being a people pleaser and fearing rejection. These may be related to how we were raised and socialized to be nice always. We're going to come back to this just now, because this is absolutely one of the things that gets in the way of self-care, are the ways in which we've been socialized, the stories we've internalized, the things we believe to be true. And there was one other comment. Juliana, I rationalize and ask myself if I need social media, always come to the conclusion that I don't. And she's cut out a lot of unnecessary information. Absolutely. We are bombarded with information. Self-care is selecting what you want to know about and what you don't. It doesn't mean you don't care about what's going on in the world. It just means that you're reserving energy so that you can function well in this world. So let's move on to controlling what we can control. We can control what we have direct control over. There are things that we can influence but don't have full control over. And there are things we have absolutely no control over at all. But so often we spend more time focusing on things that we have no control over, and we have no time left to do the things that we have 100% in our control. Happiness, talk to us a little bit about this, because this is something that is sometimes quite difficult. And I'm just wondering how this philosophy of controlling what you can control plays a role in your self-care for yourself and sustaining your energy long-term. And you have talked a little bit about it already.
Yes. As Humbulani has highlighted, I like controlling things in my life. I like controlling when I do certain things and when I will plan to do them or not do them at all. So I think for me, it helps me take stock of my goals, of my my needs, of my relationships. So controlling things that are in my control helps me stay in my lane, basically in progress, or in my staying into achieving the goals I want. So sometimes I do think about things I can't control. I do stress about, what if this happens? What if that happens? But stressing about those things not only just wastes my time, takes away from my energy, but it also, there's nothing I can really do about it. So that's why I've got 4 fundamental things that I try to control. I think there's like 4 things that a person can control. And outside of that, then sorry, I can't do anything about it. So
what are these 4 things? We're dying to know.
I focus on my physical being. So I can control what I eat. I can control my going to the gym so that I try and stay healthy to meet my targets. But I can't control how people view how I look. I can't control how people judge me for how I look. So those things I can't control, but I can control how I want to look. So you see, that's the first thing I try to do. So I dress a certain way. Normally people ask me, why are you wearing black this whole week? I'm like, because I don't feel happy today. Or this week I haven't felt happy. So I can control the emotion, and how I show you my emotions. And then the second thing, I can control sort of my emotional well-being by protecting my emotional state. I can control what I let into my space and the energies that I am exposed to. Like we have spoken about social media, there are so many negative people that we interact with on a daily basis. I can control how I receive their energy and how I respond to that. Like for the past 2 weeks, I've been waiting for orders. I ordered something online and it was delivered. But between the depot and my house, there was a problem. So I would literally had to talk to myself every single time before I talked to them. And I had to calm myself down, control my emotions before I spoke to them, because I cannot control what they're going to say to me. But I can prepare for whatever they might say and control my response to that. So that's how I try and control my emotional well-being. And knowing people in the mining industry, we always fight about something. We are always blamed for something. So emotional control also means you need to have enough data to support the response, in a way that when someone is blaming you about something, you know whether it was done or not, you know how you got to that point. So if you have that data, you can control your emotions. And then the third thing is psychological. I get bored easily. I really get bored easily. And when I'm bored, I'm like, okay, maybe I'm stepping into depression. Maybe I'm slipping into depression, and it's not depression. I'm just bored. So what I tried to control psychologically is I can control the things I read, the things I study. If I read and study, I can control psychologically how I develop myself and what I look to go to or to be in the future. Because if I plan for it now, it means psychologically I'm preparing for it, and in the future I won't stress about it. So yeah, so that's what I try to work on. Psychologically, I read books that are relating to what I want to develop myself to being. I read books that I feel will inform decisions that I'm making, so that even if I've made a decision, I've made it informed, and whatever happens after that, it is out of my control. I've done everything I could do. And then lastly, spiritual. I feel everyone talks about purpose, and when it comes to my career or my life, everyone's like, oh, when you grow up, what do you want to do? You need to do something that, you know, you need to follow your purpose. You must do all of this. And personally, for my career, I did something I was good at, not something I really feel like I really wanted to do, or it was my purpose. But linking to my spiritual being, or linking to my spirituality, that's where I found my purpose, because I love learning about God. And now I can control my relationship, the relationship I have with God, the more I learn about him. And then I can control what I do with that information. So a lot of people learn things. For me, when I learn things in the Bible or I learn things in nature, I like to share that. So I can control what I share with people. And that might be a positive impact on the people's lives. So there is so much that I can do if I put things into myself, if I fill my own cup. But I can't physically, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually help other people if my cup is empty, if I don't fill my cup. And the thing is, I can control how often I fill my cup. So if I consistently pour out of my cup, I need to consistently pour into my cup. So that's, for me, that's just control. There are certain things which are my fundamentals. I work on those. And anything that's outside of that, I know that I've done everything in my control to work on these things. I'm not saying I'm good at it. I'm just still a work in progress. But I've learned to know which boxes I need to work in to be able to control certain aspects in my life.
Thank you so much for that. And you know what, on the point of not being perfect at it, we're all a work in progress. And I think when we were talking about this discussion before the actual session, we were talking about the fact that we constantly have to practice self-care, that we have to develop it into a habit, that we have to keep reaffirming our relationship with ourselves, because the moment we stop intentionally doing all the things that we've been doing, it's easy to slip into bad habits and into patterns. And it really speaks to the point that Mahliadi raised in the chat, is that sometimes it's difficult to do all of this because we're socialized to believe that self-care is selfish, that self-care is self-indulgent, that self-care is none of the things that we've actually been talking about. And so I think I want us to wrap up this whole conversation with a bit of a reflection on what we observed in our own caregivers, our parents, when we were children around the concept of self-care. What was demonstrated to us as being self-care? How was it, what was the example that we were given? And the things that we learned to be true around the concept of self-care. And I can definitely say for myself, self-care was not something that I ever saw my parents practice. They were people who worked long hours, they worked really hard, they worked tirelessly, and they never seemed to have downtime except for maybe on a Friday night. And the story that I've internalized and that I'm really working hard to break has been, in order for you to be successful, life has to be hard work. Nowhere in that truth was, in order for you to be successful, you have to care for yourself first. You have to put yourself on the bench for 15 minutes and rest. And so I just want us to, if the panel would be comfortable sharing, talk a little bit about some of the things that you learned that perhaps you're having to unlearn now. Happiness, you had your hand up, so you can kick us off.
Well, I'm gonna revisit an example I once shared, because in my head it was negative. I'd seen it in a negative light. I once shared that my mom normally would be in the house and my mom would disappear and be like, "Where's my mom?" And then we wouldn't find her for a while, and then she'd come back and I'd ask her, "Where have you been?" And she said, "No, I was just sitting outside there, wherever, by the robot, or I went for a walk." And in my head, I'm like, how would this lady leave her kids alone? Why would she leave with just herself and just go and not let us know what if something happens to her, but now I had to unlearn that was not negative. It was her taking time for herself. It was her trying to say, you know what, I'm taking this 15 minutes off the bench, I'm going, and I'll come back more energized, and I'd come back calmer to listen to these loud kids or to spend time with them. So for me, that's what I learned, that taking time off, I don't have kids, but taking time off from whatever busy schedule that I have is important for the schedule itself. if I'm busy on a project and I feel I cannot focus, I can't do it anymore, it's important, it's paramount that I take that 5 minutes, even if everything is heated. I say, guys, I need to re-energize. I need to go and rethink what's happening here. I just need to cool down. I take 5 minutes and come back. And I've done that in meetings. We have planning sessions that run from 9 to 4 o'clock. And normally people are too afraid to ask, can we take a 5-minute break? Like just 5 minutes. And I tell them, we need to cool down. We've been in this for too long. We need a break. And that's important to remember, no matter what situation you're in or what's happening in life, always take a break, take a step back, and re-energize.
Thank you for that, Happiness. I'm seeing some comments in the chat and we'll come back to those, but let's go around the panel. Emily, what did you observe as a child?
Hi, Briony. I'm sitting here and thinking of also what my mom used to do. I think I've also shared that I used to see my mom going to parks. You know, she would take us to resorts to just blow off steam. But at the time, we didn't know that she was blowing off steam, you know. And I got to realize that when I was older. But one thing that I picked up from that, and I want to correct it on my side, was she set a target for her. So she would work right through the year, not get any breaks, push herself to the limit, and only in December she rests, which to me it's unfair. You know, like Happiness has said that, you know, whenever you feel, your body tells you, if we listen to our bodies, my body will tell me, you've been sitting for long, stand up, you know, whether it's a cramp on my back, whether it's me having to go to the bathroom, my body is telling me, Emily, listen, you need to stand up. So I owe it to myself to give myself those breaks. And like I said, once you take that break, you're not taking your laptop with you to the bathroom. You're not taking your laptop with you to go have water. So that few moments that, I mean, the time that you take to walk around the corner to get to the kitchen or to get to the bathroom, it refreshes you. You know, once in a while, if you have those funds and you feel like I need a weekend away, hey, why not? You know, you need it. Leave everything behind. Go to a place where there's not even a signal. You know, get to have conversations with yourself. You know, look at nature. So on my side, I would say that I feel like my mom really she denied herself a lot of self-care, so to say, by waiting till then. And then she can only then enjoy a holiday. She can only then sit and bask in the sun. And throughout the year, she just pushes herself. She can't take any breaks. And on the other side, it's quite unfair because my dad would do whatever he wants to do whenever he wanted to do, you know. He would plan his weekends, go play golf. He didn't care. He will come back. If he comes back, he eats, takes a shower, goes to bed. Well, the poor woman had to make sure kids are bathed, ate, we have to wake up, kids' school uniform, and it's tiring. And now when you look at them, my father is 7 years older than my mom, but he looks very young, and my mom looks old. It's because of not taking care of herself. You know,
Yeah,
but if you take care of yourself,
you.
you glow. Have you had people when you've gone on a holiday and you come back and people say, oh, you're glowing? That's the glow that you can get on daily basis just by taking care of yourself.
Exactly.
So yeah,
we shouldn't be
that's why
glowing once a year.
Thank you, right?
Yeah.
The skin won't take it. Needs
Exactly. Exactly. We owe it to ourselves to glow every single day if we can. And take those tiny by tiny self-care steps.
Icky bicky.
Yeah. Janine.
So both my parents are very busybodies. They cannot sit still. My father absolutely never sits still. I was trying to think now while the other panelists were talking about when my father took leave. I don't really know. I can't really recall my father taking leave. My mom was a teacher. So her school holidays would be her self-care. And she would tell us, go outside. I don't want to see children until the term starts. At the time, I thought, whoa, what kind of mother says that to her kids now? Oh my gosh. I get it. That was her self-care that she needed to do so that she could go and do her job. And I think in my mind, I made that association that she was doing that out of because of her job. So if she had any other job, she would have wanted us around. So I learned that self-care is at the bottom of my pile. I will get to it when I've accomplished all the other tasks in my life. And it's something I'm working on. It is something I'm working on, but unfortunately, my parents were not the best examples of sitting still or self-care. I'm thinking of the times when we did go away, my parents did try to carve out downtime. It was like a box that they were ticking. I don't feel that they were necessarily present. I don't feel like they they were not the best examples, but I will do better. I'm getting there.
Thank you, Janine. You know, I think we all owe it to ourselves to write the story that we want to be true for ourselves. And we can either live the stories that we've observed and we've learned should be true, or, as we said earlier, self-awareness is self-care, and we can start getting aware of the stories that drive us and intentionally start changing the stories so that they serve us in a way that's useful. And so I think my challenge to everybody is to perhaps go away from this session tonight and take 10 minutes to think about, what is the self-care story that I want to be true for me? What is the example that I want to demonstrate to my children, to the people in my circle? And most importantly, what is the way in which I want to treat myself? Because ultimately, that is the only person and the only thing we have 100% control over. And yet we so often abdicate our control to past stories. Janine, yes.
Yes, sorry. I wanted to say that I think the 3 questions you asked are very interlinked. So if you are worried about controlling, you have to set boundaries so that you can control what you can control. And when you realize the things that you cannot control, you will find that you have the time to go find the joy.
Love it. It's a nice pyramid there. Thank you, Janine.
If I may add there, Briony, what you just said, trying to look back and on how we grow up and so on, you know, it's focusing our energy on what we can control and what control empowers us, you know, and we make positive changes that leads to greater sense of peace and contentment. It also helps us to navigate through life's uncertainties with a more balanced perspective. You know, I'm trying to think, sometimes it's more about going through certain processes in life without being aware that this actually, it talks to self-care. It's more on self-awareness. There's a lot of things that we went through growing up, but we were not even thinking on them being on self-care, be it setting boundaries. I mean, growing up, we know parents used to set up boundaries. We know at home they will tell you 6 o'clock you must be at home or the gate is closed, even though physically the gate is not closed. That's a boundary that they have set up for you. I know growing up, my mom would say, early, she would wake up early in the morning when you're still sleeping. She would open the curtains and say, hey, the sun has risen and you're still sleeping. She gives you time frames on saying, no, 8 o'clock, the plate must be washed by this time. You should have done that. That is alone. It's time management that they're teaching you, but you're not aware of that time management. You learn effective time management skills to balance your responsibilities through that. And those responsibilities that they have taught us while growing up, they are the same responsibilities that, and capabilities that we're still using at work today. So it's quite a lot, like social connections and meeting with families. Every time you would drag yourself to meet with families, but coming to think of it, it's all about cultivating meaningful relationships with friends and families and surrounding yourself with positive influences that provide support and a sense of belonging. So sometimes we go through these processes without being aware. And now that we're talking about self-awareness and knowing more on self-care, we would start to think deep and have some self-introspection on the activities that we do and all the learnings that we're now imparting on our children as they're growing up, Briony.
Great points. Thank you, Humbalani. You know, as you were talking, the one thing that was coming to mind for me is how in the last couple of years, I've surrounded myself with people who eat healthily, who exercise daily, who are working to be physically, mentally, and emotionally strong, who inspire me to be a much stronger, healthier, better version of myself. And it just kind of says to me that there was a time in my life where self-care did not include any of those things. I actively rebelled against them and I couldn't identify with them. And yet now I'm surrounded by people who inspire me to be strong, to be healthy, to look my best, to be on a journey of really making sure that I am strong for this life that is a marathon. And it makes me think, if we all intentionally surrounded ourselves by people who actively care for ourselves and actively love themselves, how powerful we would be as individuals and as a collective of people. And so I guess the final point that I want to make is self-care is intentionally choosing who you surround yourself with and making sure that you surround yourself with people who actively love themselves. And for each of us, self-care may look very, very different. But to have more of these conversations and to fill our lives with people who inspire us to be stronger, better, more resilient versions of ourselves, I think is one of the greatest gifts that we can give ourselves. And so I take such inspiration from the mentoring group, from the women who have joined this group, from the women who are part of this panel today. And I really want to say that there is so much that I learn from you every single time we get together. And just immensely grateful for this group, immensely grateful for the thoughtfulness, for the consideration, for the deliberateness that comes from the women in this group. And I really want to thank you for being part of this panel today, because I think you've shared such pearls of wisdom and such openness and vulnerability. And it's an absolute privilege to have you as part of this mentoring program. So thank you. And I want
It's a
to
pleasure.
thank.
It's a pleasure. Can I give my takeaway from this evening, or my
Yes.
aha moment? How do I want to treat myself? Oh my gosh. I'm good at setting boundaries for other people, but what boundaries do I want to respect for myself? So I'm going to work on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Janine.
Thank you, Briony, for having us. I really learned so much, and there's so many things I need to apply as well. And from my takeaway is all of the self-care tips that I got today doesn't mean I'm doing self-care just because I know what I need to do. So now it's time for me to do the self-care. Because it's easy for me to say, oh yeah, I need to go to the gym. Oh yeah, Janine said, oh yeah, Briony said. But now I need to go and do what I've learned. I need to actually do the self-care. So thank you so much. We will keep tabs on each other as we've been doing.
We have been.
Remind me to keep going to the gym. Remind me to keep up my lists and to eat healthy. So thank you so much, ladies. It was really a privilege being part of this panel.
Thank you, Happiness. And don't forget, your ultimate self-care is sharing with us how to pin and schedule WhatsApp responses.
I
Okay?
definitely will do that. I will do that.
Please. Emily.
Yes, Briony, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the opportunity. It was lovely. We've shared a lot. I've taken a lot. I've made notes. But one thing that I want to say is to remember, with self-care comes with knowing who you are, what you're about, what you want in life, and saying no to everything that's not that. You know, and constantly reminding you day to day, because self-care, it's a constant reminder. You know, there's always going to be people pushing themselves in, trying to make you do what they want. There's always going to be people that are going to say something, or situations that are going to force you to not have control over what's happening or what to choose. But the reminder is biki. You know, I'm taking that away. I think that's what I'm going to be saying all the time in my mind. Whenever something comes up, I'll be like, tiny.
Yeah.
So for me, it's that. And thank you so much. It was a pleasure, really, having this session with all of you. I've learned a lot, even on the comments. Oh my God. It's as if you can just capture them, that we can go and re-look at them whenever we burn out, whenever it gets too much, and then we just reflect on what we've discussed. Thank you so much, and good luck to everyone with self-care. Remember, it's an everyday thing.
Absolutely. Thank you, Emily. And yeah, there are some beautiful comments in here, and I have to say a huge amount of appreciation to you ladies as panelists. There's an overwhelming sense that people have got a huge amount of value and a lot of insight and a lot of ideas, and that this has been a very valuable use of time. Happiness, your hand is up again.
Really sorry, lost. Emily just mentioned something very important: burnout. Self-care or lack of self-care can lead to burnout. And burnout doesn't start immediately like this. It can run over a period of more than 6, 8, or 10 years. And getting out of that burnout can take another 6, 8, or 10 years. So you need to remember that our self-care means we are not burning out. And if you don't burn out, we're happy people.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you, ladies. The session has been recorded. It will be posted on the WiMSA YouTube channel. So for those of you who got value out of this, which I know is absolutely everybody, please go and check on the YouTube channel in a day or so. And if you want to share this with your colleagues and your friends and your family, please do so. I think we all owe it to each other to care for each other, and to enable each other to be a lot more self-aware, and caring for ourselves. Thank you, everybody. Pumbelani, thank you so much. Panelists, thank you so much. Go have a wonderful evening. And Janine, we envy you the fact that you are in Cape Town where it's warm, while the rest of us are sitting here in freezingness.
For the first time this year.
Ladies, thank you so much. I'm going to wrap up here.
Thank
Have
you
a
all.
wonderful evening. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.